Reigns was taking his time there. Bray Wyatt able to fight him off, and Reigns sends him right back into the corner.
The Bloodline has been the backbone of WWE storytelling for the past several years. Roman Reigns, with his dominance as tribal chief, elevated not only his own career, but the careers of those closest to him, creating one of the most powerful factions in modern wrestling history. With the Usos by his side, and later Solo Sikoa stepping in as his loyal enforcer, the Bloodline grew into more than a faction. It became an empire. But every empire eventually faces cracks, and those cracks are now showing in dramatic fashion. A bad run for the originals. The Bloodline's original core has hit a rough patch that few could have predicted when Roman Reigns stood at the height of his reign. Solo Sikoa recently dropped the United States Championship to Sami Zayn. Jey Uso fell short in his World Heavyweight Championship pursuit, and Roman himself was left recovering after a post-match beatdown at Clash in Paris. For a faction once treated as inevitable, this stretch has created the first sustained sense of vulnerability, as if the aura that once insulated the family from consequence has thinned. Fans who had grown accustomed to the group walking into arenas with total confidence are now watching a family recalibrate under pressure, with every glance, promo, and social post suddenly carrying extra weight. Roman Reigns' reflection on Raw. On the August 25th episode of Raw, Roman Reigns stepped to the microphone and, for a rare moment, stripped away some of the myth. He acknowledged that the crowd's reaction made it feel like old times, but admitted the truth. Things have changed. He isn't the same competitor he was years ago, the stable that once moved as one has splintered, and he finds himself more alone than he ever expected to be. That candor resonated because it was human. No slogans, no deflection, just a leader recognizing shifting ground. What followed at the premium live event in Paris made the reflection sting even more. The celebration gave way to a ringside scene that ended with the tribal chief being stretchered out, a visual that flipped the dynamic of power and set the table for new voices to speak up. Sikoa's subtle dig into that silence stepped Solo Sikoa with a carefully chosen memory and a carefully chosen caption. On Instagram, he resurfaced the image of his main roster debut at Clash at the Castle 2022 when he intervened to keep Roman's championship intact against Drew McIntyre. The comment paired with the photo wasn't loud or inflammatory, but it was unmistakable, an implication that loyalty is a two-way street. It read like the first gentle knock at a closed door, not an attack, not an ultimatum, but a reminder. For fans who track narrative breadcrumbs, it was a signal that Solo's patience, once his defining trait, might now be a fuse. Loyalty in question. That post hit harder because of what that 2022 moment meant. Solo was introduced to the main roster as the insurance policy, the right hand who didn't need to speak to be understood. Without him, that Cardiff finish could have gone very differently. By revisiting that memory now, he's not just reminiscing. He's tallying the ledger, what he gave, what he received, and what might be owed. The Bloodline story has always revolved around respect and acknowledgement, but those words carry different shades depending on who says them. Solo's quiet reminder suggests that the currency of loyalty isn't infinite, and that the person tasked with enforcing it may be weighing the cost. From enforcer to potential challenger, Solo Sikoa's presentation has long been minimalist. Few words, decisive actions, the kind of presence that fills a frame without grandstanding. Over time, that silhouette grew larger, as he stacked wins and carved out an in-ring rhythm built on timing, toughness, and a steady pulse. The effect has been cumulative. Even those who prefer brash talkers have come to recognize the gravity of a competitor who saves his breath for the bell. That restraint, paired with a resume of credible performances, has naturally led to speculation. Is WWE giving Solo the long runway to evolve from guardian to claimant? Could the quietest member of the family become the loudest statement the faction has made since Roman's heel turn? The subtle dig that sparked debate. The social post wasn't an isolated tremor. In a backstage segment, Solo was asked about the state of the bloodline, and his answer, measured but pointed, landed with intent. Some leaders, he said, care more about being acknowledged than about actually leading. He never used Roman's name, yet he didn't need to. The observation was universal enough to pass as philosophy and specific enough to be unmistakable. Because Solo rarely editorializes, the comment traveled farther. It invited debate in a single sentence. Is acknowledgement earned in the present or granted for past accomplishments? If a family's identity is praise first and proof second, what happens when someone inside flips that order? Cryptic social media messages. Solo's feed has turned into a minimalist diary of independence, training clips captioned with, "I don't need anyone to fight my battles," and notes like, "Respect is earned, not demanded." None of it is explicit, and that's why it works. The restraint keeps the conversation alive without overplaying the hand. It also reflects a distinctly modern storytelling lane for WWE, where social posts aren't just promotional tools, but narrative devices. Each line gives fans permission to speculate without locking the company into inflexible plot points. For Solo, these quiet statements serve as a mirror for the audience. Are you ready to see me as more than a protector? Why the timing is crucial. In wrestling, timing is strategy. Roman's championship saga extended beyond most modern expectations, redefining what an era can look like. But eras contain seasons, and this one feels like late autumn. The Usos' divergent paths have pulled the fabric loose, Jay's courage and Jimmy's choices opened fissures, and now Solo's tempered skepticism reads like a final wedge looking for a seam. If WWE intends a familial passing of the torch, the cycle of recent setbacks is the precise moment to seed it. Handled with patience, public doubt becomes private resolve, and private resolve becomes the spark of a new main event pillar. Roman Reigns' history of demanding loyalty. Roman's character has always been built on order. He sets standards, enforces them, and punishes the breaks. That clarity has been a strength. It's also made the rare cracks riveting. We've seen cousins brought to heel, alliances remade, and expectations reset. If Roman hears Solo's comments as disrespect, precedent suggests he'll address it directly and decisively. Perhaps the question, is whether Solo reacts like past challengers, who bent under the moment, or whether he stands completely still and lets the moment bend around him. If he chooses the latter, he won't need theatrics. He'll only need to refuse to move. The symbolism of rebellion, in this context, isn't chaos for its own sake. It's the search for balance. Roman's rule stabilized a company in transition and elevated everyone within reach. Yet stability hardens over time, and the qualities that once protected the group can begin to constrain it. Solo's shade, if it becomes open defiance, would be less a demolition than a renovation, taking down walls that no longer serve the structure. If he is the one to step through that doorway, the moment won't just be about a title opportunity, it will be the emblem of a generation asserting its own center of gravity. WWE's masterclass in long-term storytelling. For years, WWE has nurtured the bloodline with deliberate pacing. Roman's transformation, Jay's ascent, Jimmy's tensions, and Solo's emergence have unfolded with patience, allowing audiences to invest emotionally. The current chapter honors that rhythm. Nothing is rushed, nothing is frozen. Promos speak to the moment without over-promising the future, while matches provide just enough data to keep speculation grounded. Social posts become connective tissue. The result is a story that can bend with real-world variables while staying true to a central thesis. Power is responsibility, and responsibility must be shared, or it will be challenged. The road ahead. In the weeks to come, watch the pauses. Watch who enters behind whom, who holds eye contact a beat longer than etiquette requires, who speaks for the family, and who lets silence do the speaking. If Solo's journey is toward independence, the shift will register first in these fine details: then in match pairings, then in main event posters. Should he align, formally or informally, with an Uso, it will be framed not as an attack on Roman, but as an embrace of agency. If instead he resets and recommits, that too will mean something, that the table can hold the weight a little longer. Any of these outcomes can work. What matters is that the characters continue to act like people, proud, fallible, protective, and ambitious, crafting the passing of the torch. If WWE chooses to frame this as a passing of the torch within the family, the most powerful beats will be simple. A nod earned, not granted. A match built on discipline rather than noise. A finish that feels inevitable and respectful, whether Roman retains or relents. The lineage demands care. The Anoa'i legacy is bigger than a single reign, and any transition should honor both the era that steadied the company and the one that might carry it forward. Solo doesn't need to replace Roman's myth, he only needs to write his own sentence in the same paragraph. Roman's next chapter. Whatever comes next, Roman's next act is secure because it is grounded in character. If he reasserts authority, that's consistent with the man who built an empire through standards and consequences. If he adapts, redefining leadership as stewardship instead of command, that evolution would be compelling in its own right. And if he eventually steps aside for a time, the absence will only sharpen anticipation. Great reigns don't end, they become reference points. Roman has given WWE a North Star for years. The future can orbit that light without dimming it. The fan contract WWE's deal with its audience is simple. Tell the truth of the characters, even when the story is scripted. That truth is what fans are feeling right now, a mix of concern, excitement, nostalgia, and curiosity. Solo's restraint, Roman's candor, the Usos' choices, and the echoes of Cardiff and Paris are ingredients people recognize as authentic because they've been earned over time. That's why a single caption can move 1,000 comments, why a quiet promo can spark louder conversation than a tirade. The company has the audience leaning forward. The responsibility now is to reward that posture with payoffs that feel both surprising and right. Conclusion: Solo Sikoa's subtle dig didn't shout. It did something more dangerous in storytelling terms. It made people think. It reframed a family's recent struggles as a potential pivot point, asking whether loyalty, leadership, and legacy might be defined differently in the months ahead. Roman Reigns remains the standard, the figure whose choices still determine the room's temperature, but the thermostat may be changing hands. If a confrontation arrives, it will be charged not by insults but by history. If peace holds, it will be because respect was renewed, not demanded. Either way, the bloodline is still the heartbeat of WWE's narrative, pulsing with questions that matter. And as long as those questions feel honest, the answers, whatever form they take, will land with the weight of something earned,